Of course. Of course. Sorry about that. What happened? I wasn't blowing you off like I usually do by watching a video. I was actually... Well, I was doing something of some importance, at least. So my municipality has set up a web form, and they've done this like way back. Well, not way back, but a few years ago, where you can submit your ideas to the municipality. And people can vote on which ideas they think are good and which ideas they think are bad. And 20 minutes before I was supposed to start, I decided I'm gonna fill this out. Just as I hit go live, pretty much, I'm like, I'm gonna fill this out. It's gonna be quick. And the idea I have, because every municipality at some point becomes so big that big corporation starts to take notice and realize that, hey, if we set up a shopping court with multiple, like a little shopping center outside of the city center, that's going to be profitable for us. And that is what always happens. We have one here, and our neighboring town a few years ago, quite a few years ago by now, over a decade ago, I think, decided to pay for... Hello, cat. Yes, I'm speaking. You want to come? Nope. Pay for IKEA to be set up. Like, they paid for the entire building. They paid for the rent. They just wanted them there. It's fucking IKEA. And what happened, what this led to, and they already had a shopping mall, a big one even, but not so big you could fit an IKEA in it, of course. So what has happened now is that first, this big shopping mall, everything from the city center, every shop in the city center moved out there. And inside this shopping mall, they have the crappiest food you could ever think of. So if people eat there, they're not doing it out of enjoyment. They're doing it out of necessity. And then they build this big giant IKEA with different, with more space for other shops. So now, not only does everyone go there with car, not only has everyone left the other shopping mall, because nobody goes there anymore, pretty much. Like, there's clothing there. That's pretty much it. There's clothing there. Oh, awesome. Clothing, phone stores, like some technology. Like, it's very blah. It's very just useless, pretty much. I don't think there's any locally owned shops there. I think they're all like franchises or big businesses who open up. Very boring. Nobody likes it. It's hideous. It is what it is. So the city center at the moment in the neighboring town is restaurants, not bodegas, but like that type of stuff, a cinema, and a music store. That's the things I can think of. Oh, there's a tattoo parlor. Like, they are killing the city center. And now my municipality, when they open up that place, also killed the city center. It is currently just It's not a desert yet, but it's moving there. When I moved here, there was like a small shop just for sewing equipment, and for some reason it was able to move around. It had capital. It managed. So I decided, when I realized that, hey, we have this, you can send in förslag. Why am I blanking on that word specifically? Can I? Proposals, suggestions. You can send in suggestions, proposals for the municipality. So I decided to do that, and I decided to type out worker-owned and democratically run corporations. That they should open up a fund to help these corporations or these types of to help workers buy up either closing down stores or businesses, or open up businesses, or whatever that have this workplace structure. And that took a bit longer than I expected. I'm not gonna lie. I was not expecting to be 20 minutes late, and I was not expecting to need to do a new stream because I had some issues here. So that's why I've been blowing you off. Sorry about that. I did have plans to go live even earlier, actually. But for some reason, because I had a meeting scheduled at 10:30, an interview. 10:27, I think. The internet died. I'm like, what the fuck? So I checked down in the right corner because I'm on Windows, because I'm not a cuck. Seems fine. No, I can't see any issue there. I go check my router. I see no issue there. I'm like, that's strange. I wonder what's happening. And then I try to right click. I can show you guys. I don't have anything there. Nope. So if you right click here, wrong, you can see network and internet settings. What if I open that up? Can you see something incriminating or something identifying? Yes, you can. So if I go like that, so I don't show you my personal email. See here. How do I diagnose my internet? I can't diagnose my internet on Windows 11. I never wanted to upgrade to Windows 11, by the way. I wanted to have Windows 10 still. But I accidentally clicked the wrong button. And it just... So I have to live with that now. But I'm fine with Windows 11. It's mostly okay. Like, it's not a completely batshit crazy upgrade or whatever. But I didn't want to. And now I do find issues with it. And when I go online to find, how do I... How do I... why can't I spell troubleshoot internet on Windows 11? No, I do not want to sign in. Can I? Thank you. I get this. Wi-Fi connection. No, I don't want Wi-Fi. Troubleshoot LAN. unplug and plug on, blah, 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 on your PC. Like, I have to go into settings and range check your Ethernet, blah, blah, make sure connected underneath, blah, blah. But I'm not getting... And then I get search command prompt. Like, what happened to troubleshoot? What happened? Where is it? Why is it gone? Microsoft, what the hell? Fix yo shit. Get yo shit together, Microsoft. It's like when they try to remove Paint. How stupid are you if you're gonna remove Paint? It's Paint. It's like, what, 5 kilobytes? It's nothing. Keep it. Just keep it. But no, Microsoft want to be Microsoft, and they always gotta do something weird, you know? It's not just Microsoft doing that stuff, but it's like Microsoft, of course. There. Everyone... God, my hair is poofy. It's like Poof Town over here. Everyone has heard, read about, seen, talked about the Hollywood strikes. The writer's strike first, and the Actors Guild strike, and we have the UAW strike. The United Auto Workers strike. We have the railroad workers strike, which always just comes up when you want to shit on Joe Biden without mentioning that he went back and he got those guys fucking paid time off, paid sick leave. He got those guys paid sick leave that they have been fighting for 10 years. But everyone just brings up that he broke the strike. Anyway, Finland. Wait, we can do this actually. Finland, last election wasn't that long ago. They had a shift in parliament. They had a shift in government. The former based PM, Marine, Sanna Marin. No, that's not how we pronounce it. Sanna Marin, I think. I don't speak Finnish. The issue with Finnish, before we move on, is the double letters, double consonants in Swedish and in English means you quicken the word. So in Swedish, this is Sanna. And I believe in Finnish, you elongate the word. So it's Sana. Now, it's not long. It's what is it? Short and hard and soft. I don't know what the term is, but Sanna versus Sana. And this would also go for, in Swedish, this would be Marin. But I think in Finnish, it's Marin. I believe. I could be wrong. But I think it's correct. Anyway, she was ousted. She's no longer the PM. Even though she picked up seats. The new government is a right-wing coalition. Sweden used to own Finland. So there's a large contingent of Swedish... I don't want to say nationalists. But Swedish nationalists in Finland. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. The new government has put in place some quite bad things. So I'm going to read here and interject my commentary. Walkouts, protests, and demonstrations. Finland's largest union to launch campaign against government cuts next week. Of course they're going to cut things. Members of Finland's largest trade union, Confederation, will begin a campaign of demonstrations and walkouts next week, protesting planned budget cuts by Prime Minister Petteri Orpo. Again, my Finnish is horrible. Against the NCP government. The central NCP, National Coalition Party? Is that the name? National Coalition Party, yep. The central organization of Finnish trade unions, SAK, said the government's budget plans proportionally and negatively impact workers, especially lower and middle income earners. UK, take fucking notice. Sweden, take fucking notice. The union's campaign is scheduled to begin next Tuesday and will continue across the country for at least 3 weeks at a rate of 3 days of action per week. It's kind of similar to what the UAW is doing with the rolling God, why am I blanking today? Strike! God, that was deep inside of me. That was deeper inside of me than Putin's cock in Trump's ass. Damn, that's deep. Where was I? Yeah, rolling strikes like the UAW is doing, but this is going to be across the board for 3 days a week. So not everything is going to come to a striking halt. The necessities are still going to be done, apparently, but there's going to be strikes, possible strikes, across the board, it seems. Announcements about such actions will be issued 4 days in advance. SAK's deputy chair, Katja Syvärinen, explained the group's plans to reporters at a press conference on Thursday afternoon. There will be walkouts, various protests, and demonstrations. Emergency workers have been made available, and these demonstrations will not endanger anyone's property to life, she said, adding that there are no current plans for a general strike. No current plans. The unions do not rule out such action, but there is no talk of a general strike. We will start with these demonstrations, but if there is no results, we will see what happens next. Last week, SAK chair said that strikes or mass demonstrations against the government's planned market policies were not out of the question. SAK notified PM Orpo about the upcoming demonstrations before making the announcements during Thursday's press conference. In response to the announcements, PM Orpo told the media that he was invited, that he has invited the leaders from both workers and employers' side to his official Kiserenta, I'm not a residence for a discussion next week. Is this like the PM house? Yeah, government owned. So this is where the PM or lives or something? Summer Shore, Villa Bjelbo. Official resident of Prime Minister of Finland, yeah. Tripartite talks, nothing but theater. Earlier this week, SAK labeled tripartite negotiations. I'm guessing that's the employer, the employees, and the government. Talks included union employer groups and the government to implement labor market policies, a sham, adding that the government party's pre-election promises only apply to high-income earners. The Confederation noted that tripartite talks are practically impossible to conduct fairly because the planned cuts and changes are already written into Orpo administration's program for government. In the future, no employee can be completely sure what kind of a misconduct could be grounds for the termination of employment in the eyes of the employer. At the moment, there is strong protections for employees to not be fired on spurious grounds. But apparently that's going to change, it seems, in Finland. Or it's at least planned to change. That's not good. The industrial union said at Thursday's press conference in relation, press conference in relation to one of the contentious inclusions in the government's program. The tripartite is nothing but theater, he added. The Confederation of Finnish Trade Unions, SAK, that's the English name, I guess, is the largest trade union confederation in Finland. I don't like that they use confederation, but whatever. Representing around 1 million people for a country of, I'm going to say 6 million maybe? Population? 5.5. I was spot on. The confederation is okay. So it's multiple. That's why they use confederation. It's multiple unions. I'm sorry, I've had a phone call here. Of course. It's made of 17 trade unions from the industrial sector, the public sector, transport, service, and culture. So this is pretty much could halt the entire country if they wanted to. If they thought it needed, a general strike is not off the table. The changes they are doing, which, by the way, we haven't had in Sweden. Despite us having a far-right government for a year now, they have not proposed any such measures. They have not. One time we had we have a law. Laws. Lagen om anställningsskydd, the law about employment protection law. And it says the person who is first employed, or is last employed, is the first person to be fired. Like in that order, you should fire people. So the longer you work there, the more protection you have against being fired if there are layoffs. Which is good. But there are exceptions. Like someone has a specialty that you need, you can exempt them from the firing process or the layoff process. And they, at some point, when we had a right-wing government a few years ago, or a few elections ago, they broadened the exemptions pretty much, but they didn't remove the law entirely. So there weren't protests about it, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. There could be issues with that type of ruling across the board. You need some exemptions to it. I recognize that. But yeah, so I am. It seems to be that post-COVID has become a workers' era again. But we saw this before. We've seen this before. Time is a cycle. History never repeats itself, but it rhymes. Back in the 20s, we did have 1920s, 1910s. We did have a lot of socialists. We had a lot of revolutions across the world. Russia, for example, comes to mind, where the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks and they joined together to fight off the what is it called, the Red Guard? No, the White Guard. The Red Guard is the communist. The White Guard is the Tsarist. Is that what it's called? And of course, the Red Guard won, and then the Bolsheviks won with their centralized democracy. Or sorry, centralized democracy. Also known as bourgeois dictatorship. But no, it's the People's Party doing it. Well, whatever. We've seen all of this before. It's all happened. In Germany, there were a lot of people very positively for socialism. Even the Social Democrats back then were proper socialists. Unlike today, where they're just the nice kind of capitalist. So this worker movement seems to like rhyme with that. But what we're also seeing is a rise in fascism. Again, it rhymes, but it never repeats. The modern day fascists, unlike the past fascists, aren't necessarily, at the face of it, against democracy. Like they give a lip service to democracy, at least, which they didn't back then. They were more overt in their fascism back then. So it's going to be interesting to follow what happens here. It's going to be interesting to see how the strikes and the union changes in America, the NLRB, if you try to union bust, it's like automatic registration of the union. Great. Elon Musk, someone said this on Twitter that I read. Elon Musk is absolutely gonna be the first one on the chopping block for that. Tesla he's been done a lot of fuckery with Tesla unions. I'm gonna have to take this. Give me a minute. Hej.
Vad gör du?
Jag streamar.
Nej men gud, förlåt.
Men det är okej. Vad... Always fun. Always fun. Like, not every time, but a lot of times. She always catches me when I'm streaming for some reason. She almost never calls me when I'm not streaming for some reason. It's very strange. It's like she knows. So yeah. What I'm saying is, let's not repeat ourselves. Let's do this the right way. Let's not align ourselves. Door, Gray Zone, Brianna Joy Gray, by the way, not Brianna Wu, who is in her own troubles right now. Let's not align ourselves with fascists like the fucking communists did back in Nazi Germany. For real. Aligning with the Comintern's ultra-left third period. Is it the third positionists kind of thing? Whatever. Under a slogan "Class Against Class," the KPD abruptly turned to viewing the Social Democratic Party of Germany, SPD, as its main adversary. Where have we seen this before? In this period, the KPD referred to the SPD as social fascists. The term social fascism was introduced to the German Communist Party shortly after the Hamburg Uprising of 1923 and gradually became even more influential in the party. By 1929, it was being proposed as a theory. The KPD regarded itself like they're just inventing things. They're not. You can't just say, "Oh, I propose this as a theory," which let's put the theory up for a vote. That's not how science works. But that's how they worked. If it's not up for, if you don't vote on it, it doesn't matter. It's not legitimate if the worker doesn't have a say in it. Fuck the worker when it comes to fucking science. The science doesn't lie. Okay? The theory, whatever. The theory is what it is. It can even be right or it can be wrong. You can't vote on it, which communists back in these days and authoritarian communists, the Stalinists of today, still kind of do. Still kind of do. If they had the choice, they do Lysenkoism once more. By 1929, it was being proposed as theory. The KPD regarded itself as the only anti-fascist party in Germany and held that all other Where have you heard this before? Where I'm reading from Jimmy Dore right now. I'm reading from the Grey Zone. I'm reading from Blumenthal, Mattei. I'm reading from not Brianna Joy Gray, to her credit. It's a small credit, but it's some credit. And held that all other parties in Weimar Republic were fascists. After the Nazi electoral breakthrough in the 1930s Reichstag election, the SPD proposed a renewed united front with the KPD against fascism, but it was rejected. They rejected a united front with actual fascists because they thought that social democrats were fascists. In the early 1930s, the KPD cooperated with the Nazis in attacking the Social Democrats, and both sought to destroy the liberal democracy of the Weimar Republic. They also followed an increasingly nationalist course, trying to appeal to nationalist-leaning workers. In 1931, the party reported a membership of 200,000. The KPD leadership initially first criticized, but then supported the 1931 Prussian Landtag referendum, an unsuccessful attempt launched by the far-right Stahlhelm to bring down the Social Democrat state government of Prussia by means of a plebiscite. A plebiscite, isn't that a popular court? A direct vote of the members of the electorate or an important public question such as a change in the constitution. Okay. The KPD referred to the SA, whatever, as working people's comrades during the campaign. The KPD maintained a solid electoral performance, usually polling more than 10, blah, 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 blah. Compared to Hitler's 30, they had Thälmann, their leader, got 13.2% of the vote compared to Hitler's 30.1% in this period, which also opposed while also opposed to the Nazis, the KPD regard the Nazi party as a less sophisticated and thus less dangerous fascist party than the SPD and KPD leader Ernst Thälmann. Oh, sorry, that's the Social Democrats leader. No, that is the Communist leader. The KPD leader Ernst Thälmann declared that some Nazi trees must not be allowed to overshadow the forest of Social Democrats. They already had. Oh, sorry, no, they hadn't overshadowed the forest of Social Democrats, but they've overshadowed you. In February 1932, Thälmann argued that Hitler must come to power first, then the requirements for a revolutionary crisis will arrive more quickly. In November 1932, the KPD and the Nazis worked together in the Berlin transport workers' strike. Like, it's the same fucking thing all over again. Critics of the KPD accused it of having pursued a sectarian policy. For example, the Social Democratic Party criticized the KPD's thesis of social fascism. What? And both Leon Trotsky from the Comintern's left opposition and August Thalheimer of the right opposition continued to argue for a united front. Critics believe that the KPD's sectarianism scuttled any possibility of a united front with the SPD against the rising power of the National Socialists. Thälmann claimed that the right-wing leadership of the SPD rejected and actively worked against the KPD's effort to reform a united front against fascism. After Franz von Pappen's government carried out a coup d'etat in Prussia, the KPD called for a general strike and turned to the SPD leadership to join struggle. The 11th hour, like, there might be something wrong here. Fascists, come on. You social fascists. Come on, let's join together. Like, we've created this mess. Can't we join together to fix it now? Like, can't we? You warned us about this. But can we just now fix it, perhaps? However, of course, and turned to the SPD leadership to join the struggle, but the SPD leadership again... Wait, the SPD leadership again refused? Didn't the KPD refuse? Refuse? Reject? SPD proposed a renewed united front with the KPD. This article is either lying here here. Well, Thälmann could be lying there. Someone is lying somewhere. But SPD citation needed. Citation fucking needed, apparently. I wonder who has written this. Who's not provided a source for this? I wonder. In 1932, as the party began to shift focus to the fascist threat, the KPD founded the Anti-Fascist Action, commonly known as Antifa, which it described as a red united front with the leadership of the only anti-fascist party, the KPD, who just happens to work with the Nazis if they find it opportune. Okay. In February 1933, shortly before the end of the Weimar Republic, the KPD proposed a coalition with the SPD against Nazism, which the SPD rejected. Bad move. Absolute bad move by the SPD. I don't doubt this, especially since there are citations here. But let's see. how the left enabled fascism. That's the 8th. And it's over here as well. Where more is it? No, that's wrong. Can we... Oh, sorry. So that's the... In November 1900, the KPD and Nazis worked together in Charles Borchsike. Okay, so it doesn't talk about how the communists, the New Statesman, okay. Like, not everything in this article might be right. There is probably a lot of people wanting to rewrite history here. A lot of communists, a lot of Stalinists wanting to rewrite history here. And there's probably, maybe even, some social democrats who want to rewrite history here. Though I have my sneaking suspicions that social democrats don't really care that much about the history of other social democratic parties. But communists, the Stalinists, absolutely do. Because it's their history. It's them. And they're still fucking doing it. So we're seeing a workers, not revolution at the moment, but a workers' movement again being formed. Hopefully, we can turn that movement away from fascism and towards more democratic means, more economic justice. Rather than collaborating with far-right dictators or wannabe dictators, fascists, authoritarians. But we'll see. We'll see. This is not going to be a long stream today, I'm afraid to say. Ooh, I should probably change the title because I'm not going to be able to do the Matt Walsh thing. There we go. I've been thinking. What's his name? What is their name even? What if I go there? Okay. So I was featured on this channel. You know what? Why not? Sure. They're anarchists. Good guys. I sympathize with them. I'm not a... while I call myself a syndicalist, I don't believe that we would be able to achieve such a system in my generation or even maybe the next. That's why I talk about worker-owned businesses and incentivizing such businesses, creating structures for such businesses to flourish. Because I think through that we can get to the next stage, you know? If we get a majority, if we see a big rise in such corporate structure, and we see the benefits that it brings, and people praising the workplaces they work at, and wanting others, they become ambassadors by their own will for such a system, then I think it's going to be a short leap to converting the entire system into such a system. And from there, I think it's like a hop and a skip for syndicalism, perhaps. Or maybe there's an in-between between that even. Like, the next step is going to be easier to take from there when workers control the economy rather than a handful of people. It just makes perfect sense to me. So, they featured me here. If I can... Yeah, no, that's not me. That's me. And this is from my 100 subscriber celebration. That's why I have the hat. And then they feature another video from me, a new video, the Algo Speak video. And I'm not going to play it. You can go back. You can watch this video if you want to. I'm not going to play the video. I'm not going to play my old video. And the reason for that is that I cringe. I cringe so fucking hard when I watch my old videos. I can look back at a month-old video and I'm going to cringe. And cringing for me, I've talked about this before, but cringing for me is painful. Like, my entire body just cramps up and I can't. The only thing I can do is focus on not dying, pretty much. Focus on breathing and the pain that I have. And it's a physical pain. It really is. I know it's mental. I know I can probably train it away, but it's not fun for me. And I don't mind being tortured that way. I can see the humor in torturing someone that way. But it has to be for a purpose. And I don't see the purpose here. I don't feel like it. Okay, so fuck you. What I did discover though, and I've known this, but it became so obvious how much better I am at public speaking now. How much more fluid I am, how much better I sound, how quicker I am to get to the point sometimes. I'm still long-winded though. And that's what I want to say. That I'm going to try to be more poignant in my videos. I've worked hard to voice train. I voice trained for this entire year. I don't know if you can hear it, but if you go back, I believe my voice is significantly, not significantly, but it has a higher pitch. The bass in my voice, the bass in my voice, it booms a bit more now. I think I have more presence with my voice alone at the moment. I have better control of it, at least. I still have some things to work on. Like I need to not clench my stomach at times, which I tend to do when I speak for longer periods. Like I can feel it clenching up right now. And because I've had some voice training, I've taken some singing lessons actually. I am conscious. I am aware of my of the issues it can lead to, and how relaxing my stomach but tensioning my diaphragm instead is better for the voice and creates a better sound for the listener. I'm aware of all this, so I'm training actively while I'm speaking. At times I catch myself and I release it. So and the better I get at, the longer it goes, the less I do it. So I've trained on that and I've become better. I'm happy where I am at the moment with that. I'm not done with it, but I'm happy with it. I don't think you're ever going to be done with it. And I've decided that I need to train to become more poignant, less windy in my speech, less windy in the topics. Like, there's a bunch of things that I want to train on there, but just the presentation of content, I want to focus a bit more on that. But that's going to take some effort on my part that I have to do off stream. And I did that last night. I did that. I read some articles. I did some research for today to try and do this because I was editing my video on the Turkish terrorism and the Kurdish fox, and I noticed that partially is because I was distracted by chat, which I'm not today. It is public. Thankfully, I am not distracted today by my chat. But I was that the other day, and it made for bad content because I continued to drop my train of thought, and I just had to start over, and I got distracted, and I went on tangents and whatever. So I'm not gonna release that video. I'm gonna have to redo the entire thing next week, unfortunately. But that's fine. It's fine. It's. I want that video. I want the information to be out in a shorter video format that isn't as rambling and is more coherent. And I did fuck up some details in that video. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on to become a better streamer right now. Because if I'm getting noticed by others, that's kind of a problem for me. If I'm not presenting myself the way I want to present myself. Yeah, I really, because I've done stand-up, I've done public speaking a lot, and I really think it is a skill I want to master. And I think I have the prerequisites to master it. I have the enjoyment of public speaking already. I'm not afraid of it. Hey, Blaze, I'm just talking about what I'm doing in the future, how I'm going to improve the channel a bit, improve myself to improve the channel a bit. So I want to improve my public speaking a bit. I want to become more poignant in my speaking and delivery of content here, and that's gonna mean that I have to do more off-stream things. If you don't want to rewind, Blaze, I said that I need to be less distracted by chat. Looking at you, Blaze, social lust. I need to be more. Enabled to keep my train of thought. I need to do that. But I also have to do off-stream research because the thing I've been improving this entire year has been my voice. I've been focusing quite a lot on speaking with a better voice and my pronunciations of words and just saying things without having to think a lot, without the pausing. I still do that, like I just did, but I'm better at it. I'm not pausing as much as I did in the beginning. I'm not just stumbling upon the words as much as I did in the beginning. It's all around just a lot better than a year ago. I think that's. Blaze, can you confirm that I'm a lot better? But I still believe that I have things to do, things to improve on. Thank you. Last stream, I talked about, which again, it won't come out as a video because I'm not happy with the video, and that's what launched my thought process with this. I talked about the Kurdish fox and Turkey's funding and protection of terrorism here in Sweden, which possibly Yeah, right. Possibly has connections to Russia. Absolutely is connected to Erdogan. And might be the reason for the stark right-wing shift that we're seeing across the board in Europe. If you fund and protect the most prolific and violent criminal in Swedish history by giving him a citizenship in Turkey, a Kurdish ethnic man was given a citizenship in Turkey after he was arrested and after they knew who he absolutely knew who he was, and that he was sought after by Interpol. After all that, they still gave him a citizenship. It has now come into question, the citizenship, thanks to the reporting from Sweden and probably pressure from Sweden and opposition parties in Turkey, because they're still ostensibly a democracy. They're an illiberal democracy, it's called, which is like the step before a dictatorship. The opposition parties are voicing their concerns about Erdogan's government and them helping this terrorist. I'm not afraid to say that, a terrorist who recruits kids in Sweden to kill people, to be their child soldiers. I do not accept that at all. Like, that is some messed up fucking shit. So that's what will launch because I couldn't deliver that in the way I wanted to. That's what launched all this. So last night I decided, I've rallied against the right-wing influence from Russia and from Turkey and from Hungary and all these places. I've talked about that extensively. I haven't talked about the left-wing influence from these people. There is a left-wing party in Sweden called the Communist Party, which is not the left party. Two different parties. They are against not NATO, of course. They are, which I like. You can be against NATO. That's not an issue in and of itself. But they've also funded a magazine here, or a newspaper, an online newspaper. Here, the war in Ukraine. Let's translate it. Actually, let's trans the website, guys. The war in Ukraine. We are more interested in sending weapons than in Sweden being outside of NATO in Sweden. The US and NATO could have prevented this war. Swedish media cheer when US sends ammunition with depleted uranium to Ukraine, because Russia has used depleted uranium to Ukraine in Ukraine. Call the hand for Kalla handen. The cold shoulder, this should be, for Zelensky in Vilnius. And then they have the Wagner leader, the rebellion of the Wagner leader baffles the hypocritical boycott camp. Like, everything they're doing here, while they are officially against the war. Like, if we open up this and they have links here. The left must dare to stand up for peace. The left must dare. Okay. So, yeah, we must revive the anti-militaristic tradition of the left. What this rag what this Zine is doing is the Jimmy Dore thing, pretty much. Without the, we need to align ourselves with the right wing. But they are isolationist left. They are ostensibly against Russia's invasion. And they've condemned that invasion, to their credit, from the start. But they refuse to help the Ukrainians still. They do not want to help the Ukrainians. They are critical of Sweden sending weapons to Ukraine to help fight against the invasion. They want, no, we need to sit down and we need to have peace. You can't have peace while you're being occupied. And if they... I saw a video the other day that explained this very well. This right here, all of this land, this entire coast, that's 80% of Ukraine coastal territory. 80%. Unless they get that back, the price of grain for Ukraine, from Ukraine, is gonna skyrocket. And that's kind of their main export. They're called the world's breadbasket for a reason, you know. It's not just a fun thing. Russia would control their grain exports if they get to keep this entire coastal line here. If Ukraine does not take back Crimea, then this coastal line here is useless for them. Because they're not going to be able to travel with the grains. They're not going to be able to export the grains through this strait right here. So that's why it's so imperative that they take back the southeast Ukraine, so that their grain exports are secured and cheap enough to be able to send and be bought by African nations. Because apparently, this is the most fertile soil in the entire world, apparently, from what I understand. Like, it's very densely fertile. Awesome. That's why Russia wants it. They want to fuck over Ukraine's soil exports. Then, unless they take back everything, because let's say they say, you know what, we can have peace here. We're gonna give this. They have a deal where they can export grains. They can export grains through here without raising the price of grains too much, you know, whatever. They come to that agreement. Russia controls all this. What that means is Russia is going to be able to invade easier next time. And they're going to keep moving the line further and further westward. It started with Crimea and the Donbass. And then they're going to... So nobody, no Western nation, no Western company is going to want to invest in Ukraine. So the rebuilding of Ukraine, if they do not win this war, if they do not take back every piece of land they have, if we abandon them again, is going to be kind of dead, you know? Nobody's going to want to move back. There's no hope for rebuilding, yada yada, etc., whatever. Again, I'm going to try to be more poignant. So this rag, in my mind, or in my opinion, while being against the war, while claiming that Putin is a tyrant, an imperialist even, they've admitted, doesn't want to help Ukraine. And like being anti-military, like across the board, makes no sense to me. Just imagine it's your land. Just imagine, not Russia necessarily, but someone invading you, invading your country. Should the country not take up arms? Should they just abandon the people? Like, I don't understand the logic behind being anti-military intervention in a defensive manner. In an offensive manner, I completely agree. Offensive wars, fuck those. Do not want them at all. Defensive manners? Come on. And the reason I bring this up is I might actually read that later. I discovered a Russian individual, because I talked about the Putlov scandal, the infiltration of the Sweden Democrats in government, and how he came to Sweden, how he infiltrated the political system, and how he wrote articles about giving refugees and illegal immigrants voting rights in Sweden under a pen name and under claiming to be a volunteer. I didn't mention this the other day. Claiming to be a volunteer for an organization he has never volunteered for. He is, and he was, and he will continue to be a disinformation funnel. Oh, and he got a bribe from Russia as well, or a payment. Anyway, so that's why I decided, you know what, I know there's left-wing people doing this as well. But happily, I can say that while they exist, they are not in government. They are not even in parliament. They are nowhere to be seen, pretty much. They are... Let's see here. Can we get a... Can we get a... how many percent did they get? They got 0.05. They have 2 mandates. I believe in all of Sweden, perhaps. 2 mandates. Like, it's a nobody. It's a know-nothing party. They have no power. We can ignore them to the heavens. So they are critical of our left-wing party in parliament. And I then discovered there's a Russian activist who claims again to be because again with the Putlov scandal, he claimed to be a gay man who escaping Russian persecution. It hasn't been proven that I don't think he has ever had a boyfriend. He has claimed to have a girlfriend who have admitted to lying on forms for the government, for his immigration, that they were never together. And he created 2 email accounts and like emailed himself back and forth and made her study their relationship. Like, it's like, I'm just seeing the bells of Russian agents blaring. But this isn't him. And that was what's caught my eye. Oh, we need to translate that as well, of course. Russian activist helps Putin propaganda channels. Mm-hmm. The Russian left-wing activist Alexei Sachnin, who came to Sweden in 2013 and received political asylum after fleeing Vladimir Putin's regime, now works for the state-run Russian propaganda channel Russia Today RT. This is reported by SVT, the Swedish state television. Swedish-owned state television, not run state television. Big difference. Which made a news item about how he was with the channel and filmed the fight for BB in Skellefteå. What is... whatever. Sashnin himself denies he works for RT. Apparently, he helped a friend who works for RT, and like he says, not everyone who works for RT is gonna be a propagandist. And this piece that he was helping his friend with was about like a sports thing. Like the international outlets for RT have more leeway in terms of their reporting. I think even some have been, like at times they have been critical of Russia at times. But of course, Russia can always just clench their grip on it and focus it on like the things they want if they wanted to. So that's why they've been blocked from all over, because Russia wouldn't allow them to be honest about the war in Ukraine. Or even if they were, they'd have opposing programs that lied about the war in Ukraine on Russia's behalf. So I understand the sanctions against those channels. But yeah, so this guy has, like, that's a red flag. But then I continue reading about him. And can I... He writes here, that therefore, that's why Putin needs the conflict with the West. I'm like, that's interesting. And he explains, like, without the conflict with the West, his authority is gonna be waning. Like it's nothing like new in the piece to say, so to say. But he is a Russian citizen saying this, and he also shits on Navalny and says Navalny is just the Russian Trump. So I am more inclined to believe that this guy is actually a left-wing Russian. He did return to Russia after the crimes that he had committed, like the not going along with propaganda, criticizing the government, those types of crimes. After those have prescribed, or not prescribed, preskriberat. It is prescribed. Really? State authoritatively or as a rule that an action or procedure should be carried out. Whatever. After they have, he was no longer wanted by the state. He returned there despite there still might be a threat against his life, because Putin doesn't care about law and order, you know? So that's like a second red flag. But then Alexei I'm not going to read from that rag. Okay. So then I think he's returned to Sweden now after the war broke out. Because again, he was critical of the war. Wait, no, that's not what I wanted. Really? Really? I have to read it from there? I don't want to read it from there. Fine. So, and this is interesting. I want to talk about it. I didn't want to read from there because I wanted it to be not a surprise, but I had a different point. Interestingly, the RAG and the party that is against helping Ukraine to fight off Russian invasion, in their magazine, they published this article from him where he argues that the warmongers were right. He's like, yeah, we didn't think, because Putin has nothing to gain from warring with Ukraine. It's a, like, why would he war with Ukraine? Had Putin not declared the special military operation last year, almost 2 years ago by now, a year and a half ago at least. Had he not done that, there is everyone in the West, every left-wing organization in the left would have been correct. Hassan would have declared 500 days without war in Ukraine, He would have popped the champagne at that point. But no, the warmongers were right. Putin decided to invade. And he goes on to explain Ukraine was never a threat. NATO was never a threat. No. He was shocked as anyone by Russia's attack on Ukraine. Alexei helped start the left-wing movement Left Front in 2005, a small but fiery organization which in recent years has allied itself with the large Communist Party of the Russian Federation. It has largely been the only way for the Left Front to avoid repression, says Saknin, which is him. RFK is the main opposition party, but when it comes to foreign policy, they are basically a support party for Putin's united Russia. The effort in Ukraine is no exception. The RFKP fully backs the Kremlin. These are the communists in Russia. Sure, they want to have communism, but when it comes to the global world, they're Stalinists. That's all they are. Imperialists. Bourgeois dictatorship with a red coat of paint. Congratulations. And they were actually the ones who took the strongest initiative for the recognition of Donetsk and Lugansk, which is actually Luhansk in the correct spelling. This is the Russian spelling. Indeed, United Russia initially adopted a more moderate position here. Right now, though, discussions about the war are taking place within the Levy Front, the RFKP alliance. Alexei Sachnin is one of those who is strongly against the war, but he is fighting against the wind. So, I feel like this dude is actually legit, and he's just trying to work in the system that he has, But now he has, I believe, left Russia once more because his opposition to the war, of course. Because otherwise he would absolutely be drafted. Of course. Speaking of what he wrote here, again from the same rag. Russian socialists for peace. We just read. When did this come out? March 16. Let me just. And this came out. So this came out March 2nd last year, where he was like, they're on the side of war. The socialists in my country are on the side of war. And they publish it here because he is a left-wing communist from Russia. So they probably like, yeah, we agree with you. And please, right, you have a profile, a high-profile person within communism. Sure, come on in, buddy. But then they publish this. Like, they are schizophrenic here, in my opinion. And this is March 16th. And do they Alexei? Oh. Alexei. Part of the Russian left have now regrouped in the organization Socialists Against the War. The initiator of... Okay, I'm sorry. So there are Russian socialists against the war. One of those on the left who's opposed against their not taking a... One of those who left the left front in protest against them not taking a clear position. In a manifesto published last week, the organization placed a view on the war. There are many reasons against the war, but there are two. I don't like that they're mentioning it down here. Oh, because so maybe there's more. Yeah, okay. Let's read the manifesto and see what we can get. Because I don't know about him more than I just found out about this guy like yesterday. So maybe there's more of him. Maybe he is too against what I'm gonna read this, and we're gonna see. We're gonna determine that based on what we read here. This time, the old Kremlin foxes proved to be in the minority. The majority of Russians do not want a fratricidal war. Is that a war between brothers? Within a single family organization. Yeah. Again, I don't like that. That's propaganda. That's Russian propaganda. The Ukrainians, after this war, absolutely do not recognize Russians as brothers. We can close that. Even the supporters of the Russian government are against it, but they close their eyes as hard as they can to avoid seeing how the worldview painted by the propagandists is collapsing. They still live on the idea that what is happening is not a war, let alone a war of aggression, but a special operation to liberate the Ukrainian people. The horrific images of heavy bombing and shelling of cities will soon shatter these myths. And then even Putin's most loyal voters will say, we did not give our consent to this unjust war. Well, let's hope. We'll see. But tens of millions of people across the country are already disgusted and horrified by what the Putin administration is doing. Contrary to what the propagandists claim, most of them are not liberals at all. Among them are many leftists and people with socialist or communist views. And these people, the majority of these people, are people, of course, true patriots and lovers of the motherland. I'm hesitant to be more critical of this. I don't like it, but I don't know if I should condemn it. He is working within the Russian framework here. He's trying to appeal to more Russians. And I can understand a need to use the Russian nationalistic fervor that they have at the moment, or have always had, to appeal to them. So I can understand using the words. The message is still very clear to me, but I don't like it, but I can understand it. We're told that the opponents of this war are hypocrites, that they were not against the war, but just want to support the West. It is a lie. We have never been supporters of the US and its imperial policies. Good. That's agreed. We were not silent when Ukrainian troops shelled Donetsk and Luhansk. But were you silent when Russia invaded? And we were not going to be silent now that Kharkiv, Kiev, and Odessa are being bombed on the orders of Putin and his court. There are many reasons to be against the war. For us who advocate social justice, equality, and freedom, several of these reasons weigh particularly heavy. It is an unfair predatory war. There is neither nor has there been a threat to the Russian state. Listen up, people. There has neither nor has there ever, or has there been? Has there ever been? Should it? No, not ever, perhaps. There is neither nor has there been a threat to the Russian state, which required sending in our soldiers to kill and to die. They don't liberate anyone. They do not help any popular movement. It is nothing more than a regular army smashing peaceful Ukrainian cities on the order of a handful of billionaires who dream of manifesting their power over Russia forever. Strong fucking condemnation. This is how you condemn a fucking war from the inside. This war is leading to incalculable disasters for our peoples, Russian and Ukrainians. Both Ukrainian and Russians will pay dearly for it with their blood. In the end, poverty, inflation, and unemployment will also affect us all. It is not the rich oligarchs who get the bill, but the poor teachers, workers, pensioners, and the unemployed. Many of us will not be able to put food on the table for our children. This world war will devastate Ukraine and turn Russia into one big prison. He's not wrong there. It's already pretty much happened. Opposition media have already been shut down. People are thrown into custody for handing out flyers. This is in Russia, by the way. Participating in harmless strikes, even for posting on social media. Soon the Russians will only be able to choose between prison or the draft agency. The war brings with it a dictatorship of a kind we have never seen before. Maybe not. Maybe it could get worse than the Soviet Union. It could get, but it's hard. It's going to take some effort from Putin's part. This war increases the whole threat picture against our country. Even those Ukrainians who only a week ago sympathized with Russia are now enlisted to fight our army. With his aggression, Putin canceled all the crimes of the Ukrainian nationalists. Oh, right. And all the machinations of the US and NATO warhawks. Wait. Good luck, Blaze. Good luck. Putin gave them such good arguments that new missiles and military bases will soon... Oh, right. So when he means cancel, he means... with aggression, Putin canceled all crimes of the... Like, nobody's gonna look at... far right or the right wing warmongers in the West against Russia, like negatively now. Bolton has been kind of redeemed by this kind of thing. He wants to invade Iran. He wants to celebrate in Tehran. And they are an ally of Putin. So finally, the struggle for peace is the patriotic duty of every Russian. Again, he's using the nationalism against themselves. Not only because we keep the memory of the most terrible war in history alive, but because the war threatens Russia's integrity and very existence. Putin is trying to make his personal destiny our country's. If he succeeds in this, his inevitable downfall will be the downfall of the entire nation. And then we can truly expect the same fate that befell post-war Germany. Occupation, partition, and the cult of collective guilt. He's not wrong there. He is not wrong there. There is only one way to prevent these disasters. We, the men and women of Russia, must stop the war ourselves. This country belongs to us, not a handful of crazy guys with palaces and luxury yachts. It's time to take it back. Our enemies are not in Kiev and Odessa, but in Moscow. And it's time to chase them out of there. The war is not Russia. The war is Putin and his regime. That is why we, Russian socialists and communists, are against this war. We want to stop it to save Russia. Like, he doesn't talk about the Ukrainian suffering. He doesn't talk about Ukraine as a people, really, and he doesn't really say that they should withdraw entirely from Ukraine. One might even say that he supports the occupation of Donbass and Crimea. But I think this is a good message to get out there, and I like that there are Russians who are and socialist Russians, by the way, who are standing up against Putin and this war. That is good. Thank fucking God there's someone at least. A few weeks ago, I actually made a prediction. And I think, bookmarks. I didn't bookmark it. I made this prediction. Or we can go back here first. This came out September 18th. To negotiate, you have to leave the Ukrainian territories. But they are Russian territories. No, you have to declare them Russians after... No, you have declared them Russians after the seizure. It's always like that. We have to stop. Interesting conversation on the Russian propagandistic TV show. What they do... it's just a panel show. If you might have seen it on Twitter if you're on there. They just have different people, and they are different levels of Putin bootlickers, of military and warmongers, and talking about how Ukraine isn't a real country, or how slaughtering children in Ukraine is good, stuff like that, you know. They had a guy on, last week now, or almost 2 weeks now, talking about how, no, Ukraine is still Ukraine. And this is state-sanctioned media. And he is not nobody, I believe. The point is, no matter who he is, the point is, the only way he was able to get this message out there would be if he was allowed to get that message out there. So Russia is, and what I predicted now, because remember Shoigu, the defense, the Russian military minister, or whatever they're called, this guy, when asked by a reporter, will Russia win the war? He shrugs. And that was that was before this debate panel. So I predicted that there are internal discussions happening within Russia, within the Kremlin, about how to withdraw without losing face. How can we claim that we have won without taking land? How do we not come off as weak in this. And it seems like they are ready to do that. Russia appears ready to accept Crimea as Ukraine's. They still have the same condition, of course. That's not new. They still say, oh, you can't join NATO. And I suspect Ukraine is going to say, no, fuck you. We're still going to join NATO. We want to join NATO. Because if we don't join NATO... Oh, not just not join NATO. Alliance? One of the main points for us was that Ukraine would be a non-aligned country and would not enter into any military alliances. Any military alliances. Under those conditions, we support the territorial integrity of this state. It's a very interesting statement. This, however, tanks it entirely. If not only can they not join NATO, can they even join the EU, is the question. Can they even, if they're allowed to join EU, are they allowed to, under the conditions here, would they be allowed, you know, to form individual alliances with neighboring countries? Like, hey, we're not in NATO, but we have individual alliances with every NATO country, you know? No, of course they wouldn't. And that's the problem. They are not allowed to defend themselves under these conditions. You're now early to work. Oh my God, that's annoying. Your phone doesn't automatically switch. I was supposed to focus on the story to not get distracted. Fuck you, Blaze. While they haven't let the NATO thing go yet, this is a signal, a strong signal. Because why would, like, that they are backtracking on their previous demands or hopes for a war? A possible win condition would be keeping Crimea and liberating the Donbass region. If not, keeping the entire southeast coastal line there for a land bridge to Crimea. They seem to have abandoned that. And it's strange if you look back at what they've done in Crimea. They have not only have they invested in infrastructure, like the bridge, Love Bridge, Russia. They even made a movie about the bridge. A love movie, a rom-com about love in Crimea for Russians. This is like they have invested money, time, and propaganda into Crimea. It is Russian, and we will never give it up, because if they give it up, what they said in the beginning in back in 2014 was, it was always Russia's. Okay. No, it wasn't. Ukraine was given it by was it Khrushchev? Yeah, it was Khrushchev, which Musk claimed to be Khrushchev's big mistake, which only Russians say, by the way. And not only that, but it's a threat to Russia if they do not keep it, because they can't control the strait then. Meaning it's a threat to Crimea if they can't keep it. So they have very, very heavy investments in Crimea, and it seems like they are willing, though they didn't mention it, and the report goes on to say that maybe we don't know, but it looks like they are willing to give up Crimea even. This is such an immense loss for them. And they are preparing their own public from a mass withdrawal. I predict okay, depending on the counteroffensive, which hasn't moved for the last weeks, or last week perhaps. It's been quite a stalemate since the breakthrough down here. We haven't seen a lot of movement there. But if they can get to the shore here, if they can get through the entire before the winter sets in. Now, Ukraine has claimed they're going to keep fighting throughout the winter. They're not gonna stop. Because most of their activity is on foot, apparently. So they don't need the vehicles and stuff like that, necessarily. If they can manage to get this before the winter, this whole area, not that much, this whole area down here, southeast Ukraine and Crimea, is not going to have a fun time. They're not going to be able to get the provisions they need because this bridge is not going to be there. The Ukrainians are only going to focus on the bridge at that point because that's the only way for them to get provisions over here. They're not going to allow any Russian ships to enter past this point at all. It's going to be heavy attacks on those things if they manage to get there before winter. Because if they do that, Russia is most likely going to leave that place, or at least withdraw heavy amounts of troops from there and focus on the northeast parts. That's my prediction. And if that happens, I think we can see an end to the war in early 2024. That is my prediction. If they manage to get to the Azov before winter. If they don't, I still think we're going to see a withdrawal from Ukraine from Russia. But it's probably going to be later. Late 2024, early 2025. I at this moment, based on Russia's messaging alone, I do believe they are aware that they are going to lose, and they're just looking for a win condition that they can bring back home to their the voters, or he can bring back home to the voters, because again they might be illiberal, but they're not. They're still revolution. Like, I don't think he'd ever lose in an election. He doesn't allow for that. But if enough people protest, we can see a revolution in Russia again. We can see a Maidan revolution happening inside Russia. And wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something? While I was doing my research, I came across probably the most LARPy thing I've ever seen. Last stream, I went over some Hinkle stuff. And I showed some pictures from Hinkle. But I didn't conceptualize the pictures. Because I didn't connect it. But we have him in military gear. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So we have him shooting an artillery here. That's fun. Fun for him. Good on you, Hinkle. That's a nice watch you have there. And we have him on a tank with sneakers on in this military uniform. Like, okay. Like, again, I showed this to prove that, you know, he's not anti-war. He's just anti-democracy. And then we have him here in what I can only assume is the worst stance and the worst grouping I've ever seen in my life. Some people will claim it's fake here, but no, it's not. It's just cameras are weird when it comes to muscle flares. You can even see if you follow, and I've talked about them before, if you follow what is it called Quarter Crew, they talk about muscle flares on camera and how they actually look. Here. You can see here, this is a realistic muscle flare on camera with a rolling shutter. So it's real. You can look it up if you want to. I'm not going to explain it more. Because again, I'm trying to be more poignant in my speech here. But yeah, I showed this, but I didn't conceptualize it because I didn't connect the dots. And then I saw Sam Cedar on the Majority Report talk about this. And where he is. And it's so funny. No, that's not what I wanted. Here. Russia unveils new military park for children. He was at a kid's playground. I've read about this, but I just didn't connect the dots. Of course he is. Of course he's at the playground for children. Where else would he be? Let's go to YouTube, actually. Military fun park. We can mute it. I just want the pictures, like... Oh, this is the unveiling of it. I think it's moved. It's no longer in a... Yeah. Like, they reenact World War II. They... Like, it's just a propaganda center for the Kremlin. That's all it is. And it's for kids. Yeah. So he's there. Doing that. And I just wanted to show you that to contrast it, because that's so fucking LARPy to me. It's funny. It is just a I don't have anything more there. However, while I was doing my research last night, I came across Leninland. Leninland. It's not what it sounds like. Well, it kind of is what it sounds like. But it's not anything militarily. They've opened up this place. Can I get some? Here we go. Like, they have a building. So what this is you can apply to as a writer to be allowed to go there for a few weeks, and they sponsor your visit there. And if you're like, so you can write and you can discuss with other socialists about whatever. So it's like a retreat resort. A retreat resort is that the same thing? Pretty much. I just Leninland. It's so LARPy that I can't hate it. Become a writer grant in Leninland. I want to visit there. I grew up not far away from where this is. I want to visit this place and see what it is. I just want to tour it. I just want to see if I'm allowed inside. I love the furniture. This chair. Oh my God. I take back everything bad I've said about this. First of all, a muscled bear? Interesting. Are they saying they want to muscle the bear? Or are they saying that the bear is muscled? Because the bear is Russia at this point. I don't know which one it is. Either way, I like the imagery here. I would like to have a bear myself. That would be fun. There's a tiger here. I don't know about that one. There's Mao over here. But the one thing that won me over, the fucking chair. Look at it. Where can I buy one of those? That is kind of my dream chair, I think. I want it. If I get rich enough. Sorry. When I get rich enough. Because you can see it. You have a stand for the book. And you have a stand for your drink. And you can rest your feet here. You can adjust this for the head. And you can adjust the armrest. Like, you can make this chair perfect for you. I fucking want it. I take back everything I said about this. I support it wholeheartedly. But if I ever get rich enough, I am finding one of those chairs and I am buying it. And if I can't find it, I am commissioning one. That is what I do. I will do. Okay? But then you have like rooms. You can sleep 1 or 2 people if I believe your wife, girlfriend, whatever can join you. But this. Like, come on. I don't mind this at all. Like, I can see myself like having a local meeting with like-minded people, intellectuals, sitting there and just like having a drink from the bar behind you and talking about world events or theories or what have you. Like, I don't mind this entirely. I think it's a good initiative. But it's so fucking LARPy. It's so fucking LARPy that I have to just laugh at it. How long is this video?
G'day.
Shut up.
G'day there.
G'day there. What? Thank you. That one, or that one. Okay. We've all heard about the Nord Stream pipeline. The pipeline that was transporting Russian gas to Europe through Swedish and Danish territory. And Seymour Hersh. Oh, right, we have to connect it to that. Seymour Hersh said, "It's America." He has some insider inside the CIA, military, DHS, whatever. Somewhere, somehow, he has a connection. And because he has been an award-winning journalist, everyone just takes his word as golden. The issue for me with Hersh, apart from having been caught repeating a Russian idiom, which I've talked about, a poor waif in his underwear, a Russian idiom coming from the mouth, reported by him as coming from the mouth of a U.S. intelligence officer with knowledge on issues, you know? With inside knowledge on the Ukrainian offensive, etc., etc. Despite that, people still claim that his reporting is golden. And when I say people, I mean far-right and left-wing people claim that his reporting is golden. People who who like the Kremlin propaganda, who spew Kremlin propaganda, repeat his claims because it is, by all probability, just Russian propaganda coming from him. Because now we have this. According to Seymour Hersh, it's Americans who destroyed the pipeline. Americans planned it and Americans executed it. Full stop. That's his reporting. And if we go to... why not? I think we have to go to Jackson Hinkle one last time. I'm pulling him back for one last job, okay? You're not going to see it, though, because I'm just following the link. Wait. It's still just going and going and going. Jimmy Dore. Well, I'll speak while I'm looking for it. Jimmy Dore was recently at the UN Security Council. He wasn't there, but he was speaking at it over webcam. Okay. Jimmy... There we go. The first thing I see when I open YouTube, apparently. From some random account. But has... God damn it. From 1,556k subscribers. 1.5k subscribers. He got 217,000 views. They are circling the wagons every goddamn time. So he was speaking here, blah, 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 Jimmy Dore. And this is like... Okay, you know what? We have to contrast it. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be poignant here. Jimmy Dore. I have to do this. I sometimes you just have to. You can't follow your principles at every corner. Not him. Can I just get the Jimmy Dore speaking? Has he abandoned his own show? He's not there anymore. There we go. Oh, sorry. Wrong one. Here, let's listen to how Jimmy Dore speaks normally.
Just like with the flu, you have to watch out if you have serious comorbidities or if you're over 80. But if you're healthy and under 70. But first of all, this is the whole...
That's for Delta, by the way, wasn't it?
That's for the whole 3 years.
Oh.
This is said right here. This puts the average mortality risk over the last 3 years for those above 20 at 0.089%. And if you include the people under 20 years dining with groups of people up by
And
move down, even their outside dining was
So
closed.
that's how he usually speaks, okay? Here's how he spoke at the UN Security Council, which we all know who invited him. It's the same people who invited Max Blumenthal to speak there. Russia. Of course. Of course. Any delusion you could have, any barrier between Jimmy Dore and Russia previously that you might have imagined being there is gone by now after doing this appearance. Like, this confirms that he has connections to Russia. This confirms it. Like, we knew he had it before, but for me, I always thought the connection is through the gray zone, and it might still be, but obviously he is aware of it as well now when they invite him into the Security Council. Why would they invite Jimmy fucking Dore to the Security Council? It makes no goddamn sense to anyone who A, knows who he is, or B, doesn't know who he is. But let's listen to how we speak here.
Most Western news outlets ignore the fact that the President of the United States, Joe Biden himself, announced on February 9th, 2022, that he would in fact attack the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, saying, and I quote, "If Russia invades Ukraine, tanks crossing the border again, there will no longer be a Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
Listen to how it's not fluent. He's not projecting. He's just reading off a script here that he has pre-prepared. But I don't think he believes it at all. At all. Like, I understand there are probably limitations on how you can speak or what you can speak of in the Security Council or at UN in general. But I don't think there's any limit on being charismatic. I don't like his charisma usually, but it's better than this.
We will wait. Most of the Western press remain.
And if we go to, and I hate that they've moved this, see more. I know he speaks about it. I know he mentions him.
Baffled as to who could have pulled off the greatest act of eco-terrorism in history. But luckily, we don't have to rely on my interpretation of President Biden's clear threat to attack the pipelines. We actually have Seymour Hersh, a genius investigative reporter with impeccable.
No, I'm going to actually speed it up.
Biden's clear threat to attack the pipelines. We actually have Seymour Hersh, a genius investigative reporter with
Genius investigative reporter. Genius.
impeccable reputation and credentials, who reported that in June of 2022, United States Navy divers operating under the cover of a widely publicized summer NATO exercise known as Baltops 22 planted the remotely triggered explosives that 3 months later destroyed 3 of the 4 Nord Stream pipelines, according to a source with direct knowledge of the operational planning.
An anonymous source. Everything that Seymour Hersh does is anonymous at this point. There is no named source. He doesn't even name the departments or the clearance level. He just says a unnamed source, an anonymous source inside the CIA or inside the military or inside the administration. You know, you can't fact check that, and it's one source. It's always just one source. That makes it harder to corroborate the story. So Seymour Hersh, exposed as a Kremlin propaganda, is cited at the UN Council. Why is Jimmy Dore? Why is Jimmy Dore and Max Blumenthal invited to speak at the Security Council by Russia? Like, why would they do that? Simple. The things they say, and I have no doubt that they are being instructed in some ways on what to say. There's no doubt about that in my mind. They are being used because Russia can't say things himself anymore or themselves anymore. Russia uses them to funnel a message that they want to have on record, but don't want to admit to saying themselves. This is, by all accounts, being a Russian propagandist. Even if you believe it, you are being used for Russian propaganda. Because now, and he goes on to claim that, no Western nation is interested in finding the truth, which is bullshit. I know the Swedish government and the Swedish security police is investigating it actively. And we have a report in conjunction with other nations, other papers. I think this came out in Germany, Sweden, and Denmark, I think. There are newspapers or news organizations in all 3 of those countries, several of them, I believe, who are investigating this actively, and the government is, to some extent, giving them leads and information. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I've already read it, so I'm going to summarize it instead. Why don't we look at this image, maybe? This is from a Swedish permanent mission of Sweden to the United Nations. Okay. It is suspected that the boat in question may have been used to transport the explosive that exploded at the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipeline in the Baltic Sea on 26 September 2022. Traces of subsea explosives were found in the samples taken from the boat during the investigation. So we can connect this boat not only to explosives, but also, can I get the, here. This is how it traveled. The red line here, Nord Stream pipelines, of course. The blue line is how it traveled. So it went here, 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 So it not only crossed the pipeline, it crossed exactly over where 2 explosions were and nearby where 1 explosion were. There is no doubt that this boat was directly involved. Like, it's a sliver of doubt that this boat wasn't directly involved. Was directly involved. There's slight doubt. There's only slight doubt that this boat wasn't in. Okay, there wasn't. Yeah. There's only slight doubt that this boat wasn't involved in the attack on the pipelines, in the explosions. Let me summarize what happened. And then maybe I can bring up some images to help. No. No, never mind. No image. No image that is relevant to anything else. So we know there's explosive on it. We know it was at the areas of explosion. So we can safely assume that this is the boat that made the attack. The people on the boat, there were a lot of people. I believe there were 12 people, all men except for 1 woman. They acted strangely when they were in the harbor in Sweden, where there was a lone sailor coming in. And usually what you do, I'm not a sailor, so I had to read about this. What you do is you help the people who are coming into the harbor. These guys just sat there and watched. Just relaxing, having a brewski, doing nothing to help the lone sailor. So they got, I don't know if, I don't remember if the sailor or someone else who helped the sailor, whatever, came up to them and told them off. Like told them that you can't just sit there. We are a community here. We need to help each other. And they just look at him. One of the guys apparently translates to the other guys in what sounds like Polish to the man. But they say nothing to him. They don't move a muscle. They don't care at all. More suspicions. They paid in euros, in cash. No credit card, just cash. And the guy at the harbor who took the payment, he didn't think about it twice back then. Everyone is gonna think about it twice now. But he didn't think about it twice back then. So he didn't care. But he did notice in the reporting that it's highly unusual to pay in cash. They paid in cash to rent the boat as well in Germany. And when they got back to Germany, in the middle of the night, they didn't come back to collect their deposit. That is strange. It's a big deposit. Why wouldn't they come back to collect it? We have people who are more familiar with the language said and heard them speak, because he was at the harbor when they were there. He said it sounded like Polish and Ukrainian, apparently, was spoken on the boat. And the people on the boat had a very Eastern European look to them. There's one thing, though, that is highly suspicious in all of this. Apart from the things I've already mentioned, of course. Apart from them being at the place with explosive traces on the boat. Like, case closed that it's them. But it's that the Polish authorities are not helping our investigations. They're not helping the Swedish government. They're not helping the Danish government. They're not helping the German government. They are tight-lipped on this. They, see here, they should have images. According to official data from Polish authorities, Andromeda arrived at the port of Kolobrzeg in northern Poland on September 19th, 5 days after the visit to Sandhamn. There, the boat was searched by the Polish Coast Guard. In an interview with ARD, Polish State Secretary. Sorry, I don't know why I had trouble with that. Goddamn fly. States that there are no traces of Polish involvement in the attack. At the moment, the investigation carried out by the Polish prosecutor's office, but also by the special services, does not indicate any Polish trace in this case, he says. Stanislaw Zarin's, the secretary, Zarin's statements contradicts the explosives finding made in the German investigation. For Poland, the issue is very sensitive as the country is one of Ukraine's closest allies. But we've seen that being waning, perhaps. We know the entire itinerary of this yacht. We know she went into the Polish port for a short time. Customs control took place at this port. We know that the yacht left the port later. We have no doubt that there were no explosives, that there were no explosives material on the boat to blow up the Nord Stream 2 or 1, he says. Yeah, because they've already used it. During the interview, he also vouched for the crew of the boat and states that they were only tourists. This ride had a purely touristic character. There was no one there who had even the slightest military or sabotage-related training. It was not a yacht that would have set off alarm bells among our crew inspecting the yacht. And it was not a yacht that would have any capabilities of carry out any military actions. When asked directly about the Polish prosecutor's office, they declined to comment on the nationality of the crew. According to reports, the German investigation assumed that the crew was also captured on film by the Polish Coast Guards. I mean, I would assume so myself. But they did not release the images. There is supposed to be a great deal of frustration with the Polish authorities, and the cooperation is described as poor. I do not know why Poland isn't coming forth. It could be that this was a Polish job. It could be. It's not entirely out of the question that Poland would want this. And Poland is a NATO ally, and yada yada. What Poland needs to have pressure put on them to be forthcoming about this, to help aid the investigations of other countries. There are, even if, like, they don't have to extradite. Sorry, they don't have to extradite the people to us, of course. But we need to be able to interview them. We need to God, I got the hiccups. We need to be able to interview them. We need to be able to confirm what the Polish authorities are saying about them. If we can't, then I don't trust the word of the Poles at the moment. They have a far-right government. Like, they would... Have they moved further to Russia, towards Russia? Maybe maybe I have no idea. It is very, very disheartening that Poland is tight-lipped on this, because that's the lead we have. That's the lead we're going to investigate, and we have roadblocks. Hopefully, we can get a resolution to this roadblock. We'll see. What I can say is that Seymour Hersh's reporting, while there might have been American involvement, there might have been American planning of this, the Americans didn't execute it. That much we do know. Or that much I trust. I trust this reporting that much because of all the explosive traces, being at the place, being suspicious with their handling of money, just using cash. Who uses cash these days? Like, I haven't used... Personally, I don't use cash at all anymore, ever. Like, I have some cash in emergencies, but I don't... Usually it's card, and that's traceable, and yeah. So it's very much suspicious. And it completely goes against the Seymour Hersh storyline that the CIA, not CIA necessarily, but the U.S. military executed the plan. If anything, it's the Polish, and it had nothing to do with the maybe. At best, I can say, you know what? Maybe the Americans made a reconnaissance mission during the training exercise in Norway. You know, maybe. It's possible. But they didn't plant the bombs then. They didn't... America's innocent for once. Let's not go that far. Let's not... Again, they might have had involvement. But Seymour Hersh's claim is that they executed it. During... they planted the bombs during the exercise in Norway. And we can probably conclude that's complete bullshit. I don't think anyone who is discrediting Seymour Hersh as a reliable source is necessarily discrediting the idea that America is involved in some way. I'm certainly not. It is highly possible that America is involved still. But I highly doubt that they executed. That's all I'm saying. Does this mean that it's Russia? Because that's a different theory people have. Oh, Russians did this to themselves. It's not impossible. I don't know. I know Poland has some history with Russia, a contentious history with Russia. But they're also a far-right, kind of authoritarian, moving towards fascism party government. And those guys could perhaps protect Russians, maybe. Russians would also be a lot of Russians, would be proficient in Polish, would be proficient in Ukrainian. So choosing those types, the people that can speak those languages, and only speaking those languages with each other, wouldn't be completely out of the question for Russia to do. But again, it's at the moment I'm looking at Poland at the moment, because again, Polish people would also be able to speak Ukrainian probably. They border them. It's not completely out of the question that they would. And if Poland is involved, it's not out of the question that America is involved in some way, in reconnaissance and in planning, whatever. But it is suspicious. So that's where the trail ends, and we'll see when we find out the truth. Probably post the war, I'm guessing. Nick Adams if you've seen him, you know that he is the most unhinged person probably in the world. Like, okay, let's just scroll his Twitter a bit here. Like, completely unhinged. Like, it's okay, that's not him though, but he retweeted it. Reposted it apparently. I will not apologize for being every woman's dream man. Like, everything he does, and he calls himself the alpha male, of course. Everything he does is for trolling. Okay? Never take a word he says seriously. It is best to just ignore him. It is best to just discredit him outright, you know? Don't take anything he says at face value. Most of the time, he's just wanting to rile you up. So he'll say unhinged things that makes himself look like the biggest douche and man-child in the world, just to get the laugh from his cohorts, just to get by angrying up liberals, you know? That's why he calls himself an alpha male. He doesn't care that he looks stupid by doing that. He knows he looks stupid by doing that. That's the point. Think of Boris Johnson. He did the same thing. He was never afraid to look bad. He was never afraid to look like a goofball, because that means you underestimate him. But the one thing I do think you have to, like, take seriously is PragerU, which is not a university, has nothing to do with education, but has been begun being taught in, being used, I should say, in Florida schools. They've been approved for Florida teachers for educational purposes. So let's look what he has to say here. What makes America different from 2015? Is that 4 million views? I'm guessing so. Usually you spell million with a big M, but okay. So let's listen to what he has to say. I don't think this could be found on YouTube. Oh, it could be. Oh, why not? Why don't we? I trust these numbers a lot more. And that's 1.3 million. Like, I don't think... I do not believe for a second
Unique.
that there are even 4 million people entering PragerU in its lifetime. Unique individuals, I should say. So why don't we listen? He's Australian. You're going to hear that a lot. So he is completely cucked in the brain. to bigger powers because he is from a colonized mindset. Let's listen.
G'day there. As an
God damn it, that was loud. Sorry about that.
G'day there.
Still loud.
G'day there.
Can you not?
G'day there.
There we go.
As an outsider, I have
Good eye there. As an outsider, like Steve Irving would punch you in the face, okay?
a unique perspective from which to view America. As an American friend said to me, sometimes it takes someone on the outside to
On the outside.
remind us what we're like on the inside.
So solemn, so serious in his delivery.
I'm an Australian, you might have already guessed that, and I love my home country, and I am proud that my nation has long been a reliable American ally. But I know that Australia is not America, and that my country has not achieved what America has achieved.
Yeah. You're still colonized. Or America is also colonized in a way. But you're still part of you still have a queen. It's not even your queen. It's someone else's queen. Get rid of her. We see this in black colonized, British colonized places. They are starting to tell the queen to fuck off. Jamaica recently, wasn't it Jamaica? Jamaica referendum UK. Yeah, the king coronation accelerated the referendum. Congratulations. They want to be free from no longer be a colony of the UK. Why aren't you? Why aren't you?
No country in human history has. What makes America different? There are many answers, but start with one you might not have thought of. Most people think America is all about success. I see it a little differently. I think America is all about failing. Most people in the world don't get the chance to fail, but Americans take it for granted. Only Americans say, if at first you don't succeed, try again.
No. No? Well, maybe that specifically, but that's because we speak other languages. We have, in Sweden, there's a saying, bättre fly än illa fäktas. Better flee than fight poorly. Rome, now those fuckers, come home on your shield rather than without your shield or something like that. That meant you fight until you die and they have to carry you on your shield. Because if you flee, you usually drop the shield to be able to run faster. So Sweden has this mentality. You failed, that's okay. Flee, try again next time, okay? That's not the cats. That's something else. I think it's from the outside. Whatever. It was a big dunce. Sound like someone was moving furniture or something out on the balcony. But yeah, so complete lie. Absolutely complete fiction. I think in judo, there's a saying that if you fall 6 times, you stand up 7 times or something like that. So no, complete bullshit.
There's even an academic study to prove this. According to a study by Harvard Business School professor Stephen Rogers, most entrepreneurs fail 4 times before they succeed. Success takes timing and...
Whoa. That doesn't prove that America is unique here. It just proves that America is bad at supporting entrepreneurs. What? What? Okay, it takes 4 times for them to succeed. If imagine, pontificate with me here, if that's even the right word. Bad education, bad assumptions, bad planning, bad support structures, and a bad mentality, which I do believe America has all 4 of when it comes to business. And a very predatory market. All 5 are, in my humble opinion, present in America at the moment, and has been for a long time. Obviously, that's going to lead to someone doing one thing at first, and then this insistence on being an entrepreneur, that you have to be your own boss, period. Like you can't succeed. You haven't succeeded in life. You haven't succeeded professionally unless you're a business owner. You know, that's the only way to succeed in the American mind. All of this leads to people trying bad things, maybe learning from them, altering the thing they learned from them to the next business endeavor, and then from there, that failure, learning again and again and again until the 4th time when they actually succeed. I believe you can structure this very differently to where this doesn't need to happen. Call me crazy, but I don't think this is the case in Sweden. Call me fucking crazy. Sweden, Stockholm, being the unicorn startup, which is capital of the world, which means there are more new startup businesses that break the $1 million revenue than any other place in the world. I think there's a better place to start a new business than America. Just call me crazy. Call me crazy.
No shareholders.
Oh, that's Sam Cedar. Where are you, my friend? There you are. Let's close that. Sorry about that.
Hard work, some good luck, many other factors. But to succeed, you must be given the chance to fail, and you must accept responsibility if you do. I love that about Americans.
You need. What? Are you gonna? What? Of course. Whatever. Like, he is attributing what exists everywhere, probably in the world, to America. Please.
At their best, they don't blame others. They learn from their mistakes and do better the next time. And in America, there's almost always a next time.
They blame the government a lot of the time. Like, let's see here. Was it McCain? McCain, business fail, medical expense. I believe it's the business. It happened during the trail. Whatever. I know it happens. Americans love to blame big government for their failure. They love to blame expenses. And they never look at the solutions to this, which could be government. For example, in Europe, the sole business owner does not pay for your medical insurance. This means the money they have is not going to be siphoned out to insurance companies. It can stay there and it can go to the business owner, or it can go to the workers, or it can go to investing in new equipment or whatever. It's much easier in Europe. See you next time, Blaze. Good luck. It's much easier in Europe to actually plan your business expenses than it is in America because of this. There is less also overhead. There's less administrative costs because of this. So these are factors, and never will you hear an American businessman say the solution to this is government insurance. Government-run insurance. Never. But that is the solution.
Nowhere else are you as free to take entrepreneurial risks. Talk to someone who has tried to start a small business in Germany or Brazil, and you'll see what I mean.
Didn't mention Sweden. I have to put it up here. I have to. Stockholm, unicorn, startup capital. Stockholm is now home to some of Europe's fastest growing startups and has the world's most unicorns per capita after Silicon Valley. And we have Klarna, which is now started in Sweden, but has now gone global, I believe. Yeah, like 7 billion Swedish kroners. They have 40 million Swedish kroners, which is 40 billion, which is 4 million euro in capital. And it was started, I believe, by three friends who were unemployed. And it's just been skyrocketing. Let's see here if they are... Like, they're not perfect. There are things I want to change about it, of course. But this just proves that it is easier in Sweden to start a new business than probably anywhere else. Where markets? Oh, here we go. 14 countries, including Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, Germany, Austria, Netherlands, Schweiz, Belgium, Great Britain, Italy, Spain, Poland, and America. Snoop Dogg have even made a commercial for them. That's fun. Oh, no music, sorry. So, what's your name again? Nick Adams. Go fuck yourself.
From the outside looking in, I can only admire this. And I'm not the only
I can only admire this.
one. Just take a look at the CEOs
Yeah.
of
Fix your teeth, Nick, please.
major Silicon Valley companies. You will see the names of entrepreneurs from all over the world. India, Pakistan,
Sure.
Russia, Israel, you name the country.
Yeah. It's the tech center of the world. Like that's like looking at New York and going, "Oh, you find business here from all over." Yeah, it's the financial center of the world. Or it's like looking at London. The same. Like you'll find companies from every country from across the world there because it's a financial center of the world. Israel, even, you'll find a lot of companies there because it's a technological center for the world. You can look at China and go, oh, we have companies from all over the world here, so everyone must like it here.
Why did they come to America to innovate?
Because it's there. It's all other companies are there, so they can, like, the reason why tech companies at least wants to have a center in Silicon Valley isn't because they like the Silicon Valley necessarily. It's because there were so many tech companies there, and it's easier if you hire someone who's already working in Silicon Valley for Google, for Apple, for Spotify, for whatever, to open up a center there and recruit them, and they don't have to move. It's instead of going left, they go right the next day, you know? Their kids can go to the same school. They can, you know, their routine isn't going to be changed completely, stuff like that, you know? That's why they're there. Not because America is so unique in its innovation. It's not.
Because there's a lot of money here? Yes, of
Yeah.
course, that's part of it. But there's a lot of money in London and Berlin and Tokyo as well.
And you don't think there's... Tokyo has... The issue with Tokyo is the racism. Good luck being a Westerner, starting up a business and trying to make it run in Tokyo. Some can make it work, but it's going to be hard for you.
They came to America because America gave them the chance to fail. And therefore...
Okay. He brings up Silicon Valley as a proof of this. This is his reasoning why they came to America, why they went to Silicon Valley. The companies that go to Silicon Valley today, the last 20 years, do so because they're already successful. They're already a global player, and they need to compete to get the best talent in the information technology field. And those people are in Silicon Valley, sure. But that's why they're there. It has nothing to do with America gave them a chance to fail. They're already successful. They won't fail.
the best chance in the world to succeed. And the rest of the world can thank their lucky stars for America's economic success. Not
These companies would just go to some other place otherwise.
only is America by far the world's largest economy, it is also the world's largest consumer. And the world's economy depends on being able to sell to America. It would also be perfectly natural for Americans to want to keep all this wealth to themselves, but they don't. Just the opposite, in fact. America has been the most selfless nation in the history
Like this is just propaganda. This is just capitalist propaganda.
of the world. Yet another way in which America is different.
Oh, they're just so generous with their money, and they're just giving it away with no strings attached.
What other nation fights for the freedom of others? In Europe, in 2 world wars, in Korea, in Vietnam, and yes, in Iraq. In all those wars, America had very little or nothing to gain economically.
Sure. World wars. America had nothing to gain from the world wars. Except for, you know, keeping democracy alive, which they very much are beneficiaries of. You know, except for that. You know, democracies tend to want to trade and have good relations with other democracies, and it's beneficial to, you know, to have exchange over those lines. So letting Europe, the only other liberal democracy in the world, fall to fascism would be kind of detrimental to America. It's not about, like, again, it's just rah America first propaganda. But this is how it sounds. This is how that propaganda sounds. This is what the kids in Florida are being taught. That is why I'm looking at this. This is how they will. This is no different from Russian propaganda in my mind. Russia does the exact same thing. Oh, we didn't have anything to gain from this. We were just kind to do it. It's just out of the kindness of our heart, because Russia is such a good nation. And it's thanks to the Russian people who listen to their leader. It's the same thing.
Whenever there is a humanitarian crisis anywhere in the world, Haiti after a hurricane, Indonesia after a tsunami, who is the first to rush aid to these places? No matter...
You can look at the same thing with large corporations donating to homeless funds or whatever, to charities, or setting up charities even. They don't do it because they're good-natured. They're not. They're fucking corporations. Of course they're not good-natured. They're doing it for the PR, for how it looks. In corporations, for the corporations, it's also because they get tax credits and from it, or not tax, the lower tax brackets, so they can save money by donating money. Which is why you should never, ever, ever, ever in America donate when you buy something. Never do that. Never do that even if you're not in America. All that does is you donate to the company who then donates that money to the charity. Meaning, yes, the charity gets the money, but the corporation pays a lower tax bracket because of that. So do not do that. It is a and the same goes. It's just a relieving your conscience. You created the mess, and then you come in to clean it up to like 50%. So the place is still worse off than if you haven't been in existence at all. But they're not as bad off as they could have been.
Where the calamity is, at home or abroad, Americans invariably raise millions of dollars almost instantly to send food and clothing and supply.
When you speak of 300 million people, raising millions of dollars is going to be easy. 100 people, 100,000 people, which is like a fraction, not even 1% of the population, raising $10 each, that's going to be $1 million. It's easy for America, when you look at such a big nation, to say, oh, look how much money they're giving when you look at the aggregate. But you take a look at the percentage, it's not that much.
To people in distress they don't know and will never meet. Who else does that? I love that America is different. What worries me about America is that I see her increasingly trying to act like other nations.
He speaks of America as a woman here. You don't need to act like other. I like you for how you are. You're mysterious. You're entrepreneurial. It's like he's trying to seduce you, or seduce America.
It worries me to see that so many Americans are drawn to the ossified ideas of Europe. That's the old world. It was old in 1776 even, when America broke away from it. Why would America want to reverse its own revolution?
The revolution had nothing to do with the politics. It had to do with democracy. It had to do with Enlightenment ideas. But again, this is what the youth in Florida, and if Trump gets a win here, maybe even across the entire nation, is gonna learn about.
Why would Americans want to follow the economic and social model of a continent that they can see is failing economically and socially?
Now, I've talked about that in the last stream, but I'm going to do a video in the future on it because I wasn't happy with the way it came out. But to summarize, back at post World War II, America set up CIA, and the CIA funded every fascist organization it could get its hands on. Whenever some socialist wave started to splash in on the shores of Europe, America was there to fund the fascists. And this is not only Europe, this is also in South America and Asia and everywhere across the world. They were so fucking scared of socialism that they killed off a lot of liberal socialists in the wake of it. And now we see the same thing happening with Russia, Turkey, Hungary. They are funding the fascists all over Europe. They are funneling. They are helping war in the Middle East. America is doing this as well, but again, Biden is good, so whatever. America isn't innocent in this situation, is what I'm saying. But at the moment, the threat comes from the east, from Russia destabilizing Africa and telling the Africans to move to Europe, and funding right-wing parties here in Europe and creating a social agitation that leads to right-wing fervor, which leads to fascism, which leads to destruction of what we hold dear, but what he likes. He wants the right wing to win. He supports Putin, guaranteed.
Do Americans really want to emulate France or Greece? It worries.
Not a peep about the North. Not a peep about us in this video. Strange. What? Why aren't you talking? Why aren't you talking about Germany? Why aren't you talking about Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark? What? Why are you focusing on the South? I guess I'll never find out. It's so strange. It's very strange. Very strange. Very, very strange. As if the American left wants to emulate the southern nations, the neoliberal, and now, not when this came out perhaps, but now fascist government in Germany. Like, it's... We know why. We know why.
It me to see so many Americans wallowing in victim status, blaming outside forces for their predicament.
Blaming the government for your fucking failure, I guess. Stop blaming government intervention for your failure, I guess. Right-wingers.
Rather than accepting responsibility and seeking to improve themselves. It worries me to see American schools debasing America's own glorious history. It worries me to see
glorious history. Really? It's glorious.
America's debt and government grow larger while its military and its personal freedoms shrink. It worries me because a weak, self-doubting America is bad for everyone, everywhere who loves freedom. But these worries never last long because
a shrinking military. Oh, sure, Nick. Sure.
Because each time I visit America, I encounter a people who are confident, competitive, courageous, faithful, idealistic, innovative, inspirational, charitable, and optimistic. It's like no other place in the world.
People who visit Sweden always calls us cold, distant, whatever. All of that is wrong. All of that is complete bullshit. The difference is we don't have a plastic mask on. Let me finish this and I'll tell a short story before I have to leave.
I pray it stays that way. I'm Nick Adams for Prager University.
Join Prager.
Nope. Okay. Before I have to leave, which is going to be in like 5 to 10 minutes, okay? I'm going to tell my story of my culture shock when I studied in America. I wanted to punch people in the face who worked retail, who worked in grocery stores. Absolutely unhinged people. The lot of them. Everyone. The first time I came to the counter to pay for the groceries I had bought, the lady asked me, "Did you find everything you wanted?" No, "Hi, how's your day? Did you find everything you wanted?" That's the wording she used. And I looked at her, I'm like, I don't know what to say here. I don't want to speak about my day with you. What's the expectation here? And if I hadn't found what I wanted, I would have asked someone before I came to the counter to pay for it. It's just a pleasant greeting. And I went to, and the way I had to ask someone, I met a Danish woman who worked at Bed Bath & Beyond at the counter. And I could hear, her English was very, very good. A good American accent, but I think she heard something in my voice, but I could tell something in her voice as well. So somehow we started chatting. I asked her, "What am I supposed to say here?" And she laughs and goes, "Good, yeah, or fine, and yeah, it's just a greeting." I'm like, "Oh my god, okay." So that is why Americans, like, they think they are so friendly when they do this. They think it's good customer service. It is just plastered on. When you in Sweden come to the counter to buy something, they say hi with a smile, and they start to beep the produce you've bought. And then they tell you the number. That's $3.50. And you pay it and say thank you and goodbye. And do you want the receipt? Nope, thank you. Everything we do here in Sweden, when you are working retail or service of some sort, has a meaning, has a point beyond gratitude, or beyond, floskler. Translate again, my good friend. Empty phrases. Beyond empty phrases in Sweden. But everything in America is just an empty phrase. A Swedish TV personality who set up a studio and in London and in LA and in Sweden, in Stockholm. They have 2 offices there. Very successful here. I don't know how successful they are in America. I have no idea. But they explained that when they are networking, there are people that tell them, "Oh, we should get dinner sometime to discuss this thing." And he goes, "Oh, great." And he takes up his phone and he starts to look at dates he's available. And in the beginning, he saw the look of people on people's faces. Like, it's just a pleasantry. It's just an empty phrase. He realized, when you say that in Sweden, you mean it. When a Swede tells you, that is interesting, we should discuss that over dinner sometimes, they mean it. We might not be the people who walk up to strangers on the street. But once you get to know us, or if we're in a gathering where it's expected that you are social, we can be extremely social. We can be extremely warm. You're not going to be turned away by a Swede just outright. You're not going to get the cold shoulder necessarily from a Swede just because of... We're not distant. We're just not empty. And that is the difference. America is an empty soul filled with platitudes. That's the word I was looking for. Platitudes. Filled with platitudes. It doesn't have to be that way. And all of it isn't that way. but a lot of it is. And that is why, like, you're being... I think there's something with American politics connected to this, without a doubt. You're training the people to accept empty phrases, to accept empty platitudes, to use them, to be okay with them. So politicians know that, hey, it's just an empty platitude. Doesn't mean anything. And not to say that that doesn't happen in Sweden, that politicians lie. Of course they do. It's just we lie in different ways. I can't formulate how, like I can against how Russia lies. When Russia lies, let's just get it out of the way. When Russia lies, it's very obvious to a Westerner, to someone who's honed in on how they lie. They will exaggerate their own capabilities. They will never admit that they have an empty storage. They will never admit that they have failed. America will at least admit they failed. America will at least admit that, hey, we don't have the things we need. America will under-report its military capabilities. Russia always over-reports its military capabilities. That's why you don't trust the numbers coming out of Russia at all. At all. And this is not a new thing. This has been going on since forever. It's at least 100 years old, okay? At least. So I fear for the youth in America at the moment. Not only if Trump wins come next year, but even if it doesn't, and you don't put in place some some federal standards for education, having Texas control your educational books, that's not good. That is not good. Allowing PragerU to be used as educational material, having this kind of garbage American exceptionalist spewed all over you from foreigners to make it sound better, that's horrible in my eyes. I have to go now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys next week. I won't be able to stream until at least Monday, maybe later. But next week, I'll be back to streaming, okay? Take care, bye-bye, and I do love you all.